I'm going to talk a little bit about these two pieces of writing, and I think it would make sense for you to read them first and then circle back and watch this, but it's really up to you and how you want to do it. You can do it either way. So, Julia Fierro, in her introduction, the prologue to the Gypsy Moth Summer, the description is suffused with this immense sense of foreboding. Part of how she sets that tone is with the contrast between the omniscient narration, which adopts the style of a fairy tale, and the way she filters what she's going to use to describe this specific place, the fictional Avalon Island, the sorts of crimes that happen there, the kinds of deaths, the looming cancer epidemic, the infestation of gypsy moths. About halfway through the prologue, she writes, "But for now, it's June, and the roses are in bloom. The tough and thorny rugosa's apple-shaped hips thrive on the island's dunes. The bright pink swamp rose in the marsh inland. In the leafy woods, there's the Carolina rose, sweetbriar, scotchbriar, and dog rose." What a lens to describe a place through, right? It goes on and on like this, down the page, listing plants particular to her fictional island. We know that she wouldn't write, "but for now," if things weren't about to change. And we know that there's got to be a good reason she's starting her book with such a plant-heavy passage. Like any good book, it takes reading until the end to understand why she started it in the way she did, and there's a serious payoff. As you read it, you notice how each new way of describing the island adds layers to your mental picture of it. How does it look to the seniors who live there? How does it feel to the teenagers? What do you think is going to happen in the book? I'm not going to tell you. You have to read it. So the beginning of Read Jane, I really love for a few reasons. First, I live in Queens. That's where this bedroom is. And although I'm in a different neighborhood than Jane is from, I love seeing it on the page. Second, how many books have you read that are set in New York City? How many movies and television shows have you seen? Now, how many of them are set in Flushing, Queens? The neighborhood that Jane describes is a completely different kind of New York than many people will be used to reading about, yet in many ways it's the epitome of New York. It's clearly a place that Jane knows really well, but because it isn't going to be familiar to everyone, she describes it through her first-person narration as if to a reader who's never been there. She takes her time starting really broadly, then zooming in. I imagine looking down at Flushing from space and then getting closer and closer and closer until I arrive at 718 Gate Street, Unit 1. Then I swoop inside of her uncle's grocery store a few blocks from there. We learn that there's a cinder block propped up against the door of the walk-in fridge and an office constructed of cardboard and PVC pipes. We know there's a loose floor tile. We know that Jane wishes the grocery store in Flushing itself were an indistinguishable speck from the window of an office job that she hoped to have in Manhattan. The familiarity with which she describes her home is oppressive. Would a character satisfied with her position be recounting the makeshift repairs in the busted floor of her workplace? Imagine how Park might have written the chapter if Jane were another kind of character, one who felt a sense of belonging in her community and a sense of pride in her work and the family business. What might she have focused on then?